we'll go ahead and, this page isn't numbered, but this is the budget changes. We'll go off this one. Emily, if you wanna go down.
Okay. There's just a few changes that we've made since our last workshop. Jeff had mentioned to you all about a county attorney having an investigator position possibly. Nobody had any opposition at that time, so we did put that in there. I've also increased the special group contributions by $46,200 to get to that 205 that you all asked for. So that takes general reserves down by 113,000. Gerald, Roger had mentioned that he's starting to have trouble hiring and maintaining help. Used to his benefit package was enough that it would retain them, but with the way retirement is and the changes that's been made in the retirement system, it's just hard to hire somebody in at $11 an hour and get them to stay. So he had requested a $1 raise for all of his employees. He's had some turnover with retirement lately, and so he doesn't, most of his more expensive employees are gone. But that would be a $74,100 raise to, for the fringe and the increase to salary. It also moves Roy Jones into the jail budget, and removes him from the maintenance crew budget. We also put building maintenance and repairs back into the jail budget because we had removed them and put them in the general fund when he didn't have a dedicated maintenance employee, and now that he does, we put it back into the jail fund.
And a key thing about that is that he will not be under the county administrative code. He will actually fall under Roger's policy. He will be basically under Roger's supervision.
The sheriff had asked for 2 employees. I looked at I previously hadn't budgeted a carryover for ABC. As we've gotten closer to the end and I can anticipate expenses better, we budgeted for 6 months of one of the contract employees plus their fringe and equipment. I think our intention was that by January we would get a better picture of what ABC looked like, and could possibly make those additional changes then. Ambulance equipment, we increased by $10,000 to allow them the purchase of the 1 new ambulance and the striker load assist equipment that we saw that video demonstration. It also increases sanitation, a contingency reserve. It creates that, not increases it, but there's a $30,000 contingency reserve.
They're going to be here this morning to update y'all.
So I've got listed your updated reserve totals after all those changes is $3,729,328.
And that's hard, fast dollars. You know, we talked.
Not a reserve, no, not January 1 reserve. The carryover will be hard, fast dollars, but the reserve.
Okay, so that's, what is that number? Or when we get ready to
Carryover?
put it to, no, not, I heard what you read there, but the, what the hard, fast number is as far as reserves,
Well,
actual hard dollars.
they won't be hard dollars until we get all of our receipts in. The reserves is a difference in receipts and expenses. So until I get all the receipts in, none of it is hard and
But
fast.
you mentioned last time that a number similar to that, like 3.9, and then you said like 1.9. You'll know, you'll be able to tell us tomorrow when we.
No, I can tell you what carryover is, or should be. July 1. Those are hard, fast dollars. Reserves aren't.
Okay. Okay, when will we be able to tell what the reserves are?
July 1. But I've estimated them for
Okay.
you last budget workshop.
Right, right, that's what I was saying. You gave us two different numbers, and I asked that same question, and,
Well, you'll notice on your changes sheet it was at the June 1 budget workshop that I had increased the reserves, or the carry forward. That is, general fund is 900,000, road fund 840,000. Jail fund, 220,000. 911 fund, 30,000. Occupational tax fund, 5 million. And ABC would now be 70,000. Those are the ones that
so
have
that, so that's a total of what, as of right now?
$7,060,000.
Say again?
$7,060,000.
$7,060,000?
Yes. The other amount that you were talking about, the 2.6, that's what I added to the previous carry forward.
Okay, when I was confused, when you, last time when you gave those numbers, the hard dollars, I thought they added up to about 1.9 million.
I'm not sure what you mean by hard
Well, the
dollars.
hard, fast dollars and not that we have in reserve, the actual cash in reserve, you read something like 900,000, 840, 220, and 30,000.
Which numbers?
Well, that was on the fourth budget right here that you gave us down here on the first page, kind of like this thing we got today.
Can you show me where it is on that
On the very
document?
first page at the bottom,
At the bottom?
where it says general fund reserve 3.2
Yes.
million.
Yes.
And
That was that's what the reserve was increased by.
Okay, and then, but I asked for the hard dollars and you said in general fund 900,000, road fund 840,000. So that's like, that's the number that I was after. That I was trying to ask the question.
The reserves are the difference, the net difference between all of your budgeted receipts and all of your budgeted expenses. It's the
Yeah, I
difference.
understand that.
So I can't identify which ones are true material dollars until we get to the end of the fiscal year and we received all we're gonna receive and expended all we're gonna expend.
But I thought that was a guess of what that was gonna be, 900, 840, 220, and 30,000.
Yes, that's a guess of what
Okay.
we will carry forward July 1.
Okay, that's the answer to the question I wanted, thank you.
Any other questions on that?
I was wondering about like a capital projects item. I didn't know how, I know we've been trying to identify these, and for an example, We talked about the work at the park up at Aurora, and tearing down the building would be, of course, a safety issue. They're wanting this pavilion and this electrical work done. I didn't see that as something that we would contribute to. I mean, that's an improvement, that's a capital improvement to one of our assets. I didn't know if we could, is there we need a line item for projects like that that may come up? Something that we need to do to a building, or, I mean, I know we're kind of guessing at things like that, but that's actually that's not really it's just a difference in a maintenance on a building as opposed to an actual improvement to one of our properties.
I know we've got some things that we've already looked at, like we've got obviously the sanitation issues, that there are some unknowns there. I think in the grant application that they turned in, didn't we discuss?
The grant application that they turned in did have, and they've got a number for work on the pavilion and this electrical work, absolutely, they do. But I didn't think it really needed to be in our contribution issue. It really, that's an improvement to our property. I didn't know if that could be placed in the budget in some way, like a capital project, just to improve our park up there.
We've had a line item like that in the past.
I knew we'd had capital projects, right, just a kind of a general capital projects that, we could decide if, if and when that need to be distributed, not knowing exactly, but now they do have they've got numbers for their project, absolutely. I forget now, it's $5,800, I think maybe, or something in that neighborhood, but anyway, that was their idea, and I guess we could have done that on contributions, but it just didn't seem like the place for it to contribute to them to do that when it's a capital improvement to one of our properties.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if because I know they turned in two.
Yeah.
We discussed,
Right, utilities, and then this project to remove the building and put up a pavilion.
They didn't turn in a figure for us to remove the building, though, did they?
I thought I thought they were guessing at that may not be right. That may, 5,800 may have just been the pavilion and moving the electric. They've actually got some, I don't have it in my hand yet, but I'm supposed to have they were supposedly, I thought that I've got yeah, it's in my box down there now. I just didn't stop and pick it up. They've got actual numbers for the pavilion and the electrical work.
But we told them we'd just probably send a dump truck and a backhoe
Well, to
out there.
tear the building down, yeah, that was just to move the building, but to add the pavilion and the electric, it's not included anywhere, and there may be others. I don't know if there's other projects that we might want to put under capital, but anytime we improve one of our properties, it's kind of a capital expenditure rather than a maintenance issue.
Trying to think if you're not talking about that much money. I think one of the things we discussed too was improving. There's additional costs maintaining throughout the year, and I don't know if we've done the numbers on those to see what that costs. Now, anytime we can draw from the reserves to as a court, we can make a decision to do something like that. But I don't know if we have all the details.
We can, I can gather that and get that for the court, and then we can go from there. I just thought if there's some, it doesn't have to be specific, just a capital expenditure of whatever, $15,000, $20,000, that if we decided to do some project or make an improvement to one of our properties, it'd just be there it'd be a line item, and we could draw from that without dipping into reserves. It'd already be assigned, and if we don't use it, it'll just carry over.
Setting a certain amount. I know this fiscal year, sometime last year, we had discussed when we had pulled, I think we had pulled some money. Didn't we have some money set in the capital projects that, what am I thinking, that we used some capital projects dollars at some point? But I think in that meeting, we had discussed setting aside a certain amount of money for capital project.
Yeah, I didn't know, I didn't think that had been, I didn't think we'd set it aside at this time anyway. I thought there might be, we might want to do that before we finalize our budget.
When we'd had that in the budget in the past, it was handy for,
I think we
If you-
used it.
yeah, if a heat and air unit went out at the
Exactly.
ambulance
It
bill.
would be, that would be like yeah, I know that's, could be maintenance, but it's also a capital improvement to, it could be considered an improvement. I know at work, those kind of projects, if they're very large, they turn into capital projects instead of just maintenance projects.
It's convenient to have it already there.
Yes.
That wasn't Whack Pack, was it?
Yeah, Whack Pack is.
Down 5,800.
5,800 is what they were discussing on the pavilion and the electrical, yes. And that would, like I said, that's an improvement. We furnished them the utilities for the projects, the events they bring in, but for them to, it just didn't seem like it was their place to be making improvements to our properties there, and, even though we were contributing to it, it just looked like it would be a capital expenditure.
I think when we discussed it last time, the dollar amount is where we were at, if we were to do a capital project.
Well, we do have, it's 20,000 and it's Chestnut Creek. I forgot we put that in there. It's under 01-502-57410, fiscal court capital projects, and we put 20 in there for any kind of expenses that would be associated with that Chestnut Creek project. But
Okay.
after getting deeper into that project, I think the most that we would have in it is gonna be about $2,500, that the others would be in-kind contributions, so.
You're thinking that 5,800 is what, so there may be some monies there that,
We could just drop that
Project.
Chestnut Creek off of that line
Just
item.
call it a capital project budget. I think that would be good, and then we could use it as needed.
Also had 2,500 down on Whack Pack. I don't know what that is.
Utilities.
Okay, yes,
We're covering that.
right.
yeah. Yep, nope, no problem. Let's see.
I think that's really all I had.
We want to let these guys speak while they're here before we go on.
I think that's pretty much, unless there's something else.
I've got some questions about some of this other, some of the things we talked about, but, I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
No, they're here. Y'all want to come up here and sit by Jeff? No? Good morning.
Good morning, Court.
Morning, Judge.
We had a good rain, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
It showed up at Draftonville.
Yeah,
We caught it, most of it. What we're up here for today, I asked the judge when that I might get a chance to speak to the commissioners as a whole, rather than one-on-one, kind of update you, let you know where we're at with our sewer district out here. Seems like it's like pulling Kleenex, working on this thing. Grab one, two more problems come out. And we've gotten to the point now, we had a teleconference last week with Department of Water, EPA, and they were really wanting to drop a hammer on us bad, and we surprised them with our hard work and efforts and funding that we put into it. Physically, the plant is pretty much where it needs to be. I think we've met every request, Department of Water, where we had our notices of violation. We're having a lot of trouble with our biology on the plant. Lindell, he's pulling his hair out. It's wonder he's got as much as he does right now. We've tapped every resource that we know. We think we've got some answers. We don't have them all. We know that we're not gonna be in compliance at the end of this month. It's not possible. And, some of it's just experimenting. We're trying to keep from just throwing money at a problem. And to let you know kind of how we wound up where we're at, and I'm not gonna take up too much of your time. That original small plant was in the 70s, I'm sure, when it was put in. It was, Bob, you may remember, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And that plant was designed for a subdivision. That's what it was designed for. That was before Draftonville started growing. And there got to be more and more demand on this plant. It came to the point where the plant was failing, and we built a new plant. Okay. We did that. That allowed for expansion and growth, which is good to have, but we got commercial growth. Commercial is the worst demand on a sewer plant you can possibly have. We've got probably, I would say, 75% commercial versus 25% residential, which means we go to our fat, oil, and grease that we've discussed in the ordinances that's been passed. What's happening is we've got this plant working. We kept one tank as a control to make sure that the machine worked. We didn't bring in our influent to that tank. We put a batch in, we seeded it, or Lyndall did, I say we, he's done the work. Seeded it, got it live, got it working, and it was perfect as it could be. But the minute you add influent, we start having trouble, we start fighting. What's happening is we're getting a white, grayish water in, which is oil and grease. What the grease does, from what I understand, we've been told, best I understand, it actually bonds to the bacteria and depletes oxygen or just suffocates it, and it kills the bacteria or bugs that it takes for us to operate. Now, I know I took a long way around to tell you this, but we've gotten this far in it. We've put a lot of money in the plant. It's a good plant, but we have got to expand. We have got to add more residential waste to this. And at the same time, we have got to stop all of the oil. We've got to keep our fog ordinance enforced in order for this to work. We can't do miracles with this plant. You can buy seeds, which we've done. You can seed and seed and seed, which is you're buying your bugs, but they'll die quick. And there's nothing we can do about that. So, you know, I know you've discussed the future plans of expansion, going to the high school, and what is it, 5 phases or 7 phases?
About 7.
We've got to do this. And we're kindly caught in a situation here. If it's not done, if it's not supported, and we don't do this, the county's still gonna have the problem, one way or another. It's not a problem that's gonna go away or can be ignored. And it's just gonna result in more fines, or very worst case scenario, if that plant was to be closed, you're gonna shut Draftonville down. It can't operate. And the rumor's already out that there's expansion and growth coming with our district. I don't know how many calls I've had from contractors, builders, realtors, wanting to know where's it going, when's it coming. We went as far as one of our projects, we offered an extension at their expense to some property owners in Draftonville. And by adding just a few hundred feet of line and one manhole, we've opened up 55 acres of a multi-million-dollar property that hasn't been marketable in 30 years. And I guarantee it's gonna happen pretty quick. And there's other properties like that that's available. And there's other builders and people that are looking to come in, bringing in jobs and growth. And we look at, I think, how is the district ever gonna pay this money back? And that's your concern. Well, right now, if we weren't having to add and fix and build, I think on what we're doing right now, if everything was working, we're pretty much just carrying our own, running in the black. I think would be okay just to operate. But we can't fix our problems doing that, and we've got to have the expansion. We can't fund that. But with expansion, we're gonna have commercial growth, which is gonna result in jobs, county taxes, property taxes. That's one way that I see that we're gonna gain from it. And down the road, it is gonna be a profitable plant, but we've got to have help. We can't go off and leave it. It's the point now, it's like catching a bobcat, guys. they ain't hard to catch, they're hard to let go of, and that's where we are. And I just wanted to kind of relay to you how important it is, in the situation we've got into. I'm gonna have to have your help. I've got to have, and support, monetarily, and also supporting and enforcing our ordinance that's been passed, our fog ordinance. And I think you're gonna be amazed at what you see happen in the upcoming couple of short years, as far as growth and expansion. And that's what we're after. But we've got to spread out, we've got to get more, residential, is what we've got to have. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, and I brought the second smartest person I know besides me, Linda.
What we've got, guys, is we've got 21 restaurants, and we all know that these restaurants are booming. We can't imagine how much food is being processed in Draftonville. Okay, the only residential wastewater that we have coming into that plant is back on Native Circle. That's it. Everything on the east side of 641, starting at the car wash, down to the main lift station, which you've got the car wash, you've got Parcells, you've got the bakery, you've got Ponderosa, you've got McDonald's, you've got Arby's, the motel, all comes into the main lift station. That's all we've got coming in to that lift station over there. We've got, and I went into McDonald's, me and Michael Carlson was his name, from the health department. And what they've got is they've got a drip. It's a degreaser, and it automatically drips into their plumbing. And what it's doing is it's keeping the grease from being hard and staying in their grease trap, and it's putting it into a liquid form, and it's coming out into the sewer system all the way to the sewer plant. And now that's the only one that I've been into. Now this was Friday. Last Monday, they had their tank pumped. They had some issues with their piping inside the grease trap. They got that fixed. I say fixed, they got it, they fixed it. The long pipe is supposed to be on the effluent of the grease trap. The short pipe was supposed to be on the influent. I believe the tank was installed improperly. I think it should have been turned 180. But anyway, they fixed that. I went inside McDonald's and I found this drip, and it benefits the restaurants because of it keeps their plumbing clean. But yet when it hits the grease trap, it also keeps the grease it's supposed to turn into solids. When it hits the grease trap, it's keeping it in a liquid form. And you can stand down at my main lift station at the plant and see this white water coming in. And that's what it is. And what it's doing, it's depleting the dissolved oxygen in the plant as I turn the influent pumps on into each individual 50,000 gallon tank. I can take DO samples. When I reseed that tank, I got my pH right, I got my DO right, and then whenever I've got the activated sludge, it's got a good color to it, everything's working the way it should. I turn the influent pumps on. In 2 days' time, I'm seeing the discoloration starting to turn gray. In 3 to 4 days, it's dead. And when it dies, it kills the process. So what I'm trying to say is we have got more commercial water that is fog, oil and grease than what that plant is designed to handle. That plant was designed to handle 320 BODs per day. We're getting way more than that in that plant. I took 2 samples, one at each main lift station. One lift station, the sample came back 800 milligrams per liter of BODs. BODs is what is putting a strain on your wastewater treatment plant. And the other lift station was 450 PODs. I'm gonna start going to each individual business or restaurant. I'm not gonna pick on nobody, but I'm gonna have to take a sample at each individual restaurant, and then we're gonna have to enforce this ordinance that we have in place. Because until we get a grip on the oils that's coming into that plant, I can't do nothing with it. Period.
The problem is, once one of these tanks goes septic, it's a 50,000 gallon tank. We can't, there's nowhere to put it. We have to have it hauled. We've done this 3 times with 2 of the tanks. We kept the one, sample tank, we kept it as a control. Other 2 tanks, we've done it 3 times. Drain them down. Actually, Lyndall has to pop the manway and go inside and clean it out.
You have to get every bit of that dead sludge out of the tank, or you can't even restart the process.
But that runs us, it's generally about $5,000 a pop, over and over and over, and it's just it's wasting good bait on bad fish, guys. But we've got to have some help. And I would like to say, Commissioner Boland, if you get a chance, I would really like to spend some time with you. If you could give me a call, I'd like to take you up there and show you what we have, and so you really understand. I know this is in your district, and I'd like to educate you a little more on it so you can help us. And I know you can't until you know, and sure, we'll be glad to. And you just at your convenience, if you could contact me, I'll leave work and we'll come up there and take you and show you. But it's not a situation that I think can't be fixed. But I just wanted to, I guess in the country boy terms, I needed to cover shoot y'all just a little bit here. I needed all 3 of you and tell you, we're in this together, like it or not, and we're gonna have to have some help. We can't do it by ourselves. We're gonna have to have help, and that's what we're here for. I'm not talking numbers. I'm not talking time schedules. I'm just saying, guys, we're doing all we can do, and we're gonna need more. We're gonna need your help. The judge, I know the other day we had the teleconference with Department of Water and EPA. Man went to bat for us and done everything but lost his temper. I think he did do that, but he maintained pretty well too. And something's going to have to happen. They, Department of Water, don't seem to be taking us seriously, and I think they do now. I think they were informed. But anyway, if you get contact with me, we'll get together and we discuss this further. But that's why we were here this morning. Sorry to take up so much of your time, but I didn't know. I asked the judge when I could meet and talk with all of you and let you know where we stand and try to get across the point of how serious it is and where we're at. And that's where we
Did Jay Steakhouse get in compliance here lately with the FOG or not? He was complaining to me about what it cost him to get into compliance. So did he?
He got his grease trap pumped. I think he's on schedule. He's, I think, getting his grease trap pumped. Now, as far as in compliance, I've not done any sampling in each individual restaurant yet. If it'll stop raining long enough to where I can get an accurate sample, I'm gonna do that. But I mean, they can get their grease traps pumped. But as long, if they've got degreaser that's dripping inside this building, and this oil and fats and grease is liquefying and mixing in with the water, then it's coming right out the grease trap just like the water is.
Just like McDonald's?
Yeah. I don't know, Johnny, if it's that way or not. I've not been inside. I'm a little reluctant about going in and you know, looking at these places without some, maybe people from the health department or.
I think you know what you're going to find. I assume you know what you're going to find because you guys, when you all took over, you inherited, you know, these cards to play with. You didn't bring them to the table or get dealt while you're, you know, first got in office, and and I understand a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, EPA, when all this started, came in and said, you know, here's the keys to the car. Of course, we as a fiscal court don't have to take them, you know, but as you said before, what happens if we don't take them? They shut Draftonville down. And obviously none of us want that to happen, but when F&H Florence and Hudson was in here in 2010 and 2011, you know, with the same set of circumstances, and when they left, it's my understanding that everything was fine and dandy, and the same problems existed. They needed expansion, they needed the right kind of bugs, they needed Marshall County High School, Christian Fellowship, and Make the Loop, and that was the plan. Never did get, you know, implemented. And, you know, here we are again with the same set of circumstances, but when you mentioned, Leonard, about the businesses and so forth, and it has to be a team effort. You know, we've got, when we got here, or most of us got here, all but Bob, there was the sanitation district owed this county $576,000, and now we identified that's close to $1 million now that we have invested, and it's a good investment. Now, I'm not saying it's, you know, bad investment, because unless you just want Draftonville to disappear, because that's what's going to happen. So, you know, some things you just got to bite the bullet, and whether you like it or not, but we need to get a plan that involves the businesses. We need to get a plan that involves the expansion and that loop in the school system and so forth. We need you need more help than from this body right here. You need help from the school system and them to come along, because that'd take care of a lot of problems with the good bugs that we need that you were talking about.
I think the plans that you're talking about most of them are pretty much already implemented.
Yeah, we're talking about them, but
the fog plan is there. All it lacks is enforcement. And we've met,
right,
of course, with the schools. They're ready to get us in their plans. They're ready for the expansion. From where I see it, Rick, I believe that all eyes are on us right now. That's the way I see it from where I see it, in my involvement I've had. But, you know, you said 2010, nothing happened. Well, come look, it's what happened in 2017.
Well, I know that. I know there's a big difference, and money will fix everything. If we had plenty of money, but we've got $1 million in it now. But when F&H left, it's my understanding from the engineers at F&H, when they left in 2010-11, that project, the rates were $5 1,000, and they recommended that, you know, to go to $10 to $12 1,000 just to break even with the needs of the community, or needs of Draftonville and the system. And, you know, it's still $5 1,000 right now.
It's actually, it's $60 every 2 months, and then $5 1,000 for everything over 12,000 gallons.
Okay.
$5 1,000 comes in. I don't think that we can, I wish we could raise the rates to the point that it would take care of itself, but we both know that's not going to happen. And there's not a good answer, and I don't like being here any more than y'all like having me here, I promise you.
Right. I'm just saying, I think everybody needs it. We've got a problem, and we need to address the problem, and we're going to address the problem, but everybody needs to have some skin in the game.
You bet, and I think we're at that point. We've involved about everybody that's going to be involved in this. We've got there's some silent people there that's involved. We've got business owners in things that's going on. That we've went a lot further than you can see from the outside looking in. And I'm going to leave it at that for right now. But basically, I just we wanted to come and inform you and let you know when you hear, well, they need this, they need that. We want you to know where we're at. We're in a tight spot. We're doing our job, doing our best to do our job. And we're going to continue to do that. And you're going to be proud of what happens. But we've got to have help, like you said, helping us partner with other entities and helping us with the Department of Water and EPA the local health department, help us get these fog ordinances enforced.
Right. Get in compliance is a big thing,
It
because
has
that's,
to happen, and we're gonna go individual to individual to individual, and we're gonna identify every one. We've identified which side of the road we wanna go, and now he's got the sample containers, it's ready to start tomorrow, as soon as the rain will let us do that. But there comes a point in time where Lindell doesn't feel comfortable by himself trying to enforce a county ordinance, and it's not his place actually to do so. And, if a question comes up where we're having trouble enforcing that, we wanted you to know why we're even there to begin with. Don't have to be, but we gotta be. It's just one of those things. And you have any more questions? I know we're taking up a lot of your time.
I'm gonna try to get with you Wednesday after lunch.
That'll be fine.
I've got doctor appointments all morning, but
That'll be fine.
I'll call you, see if we can get together.
Yeah, if you give me a buzz, I'd appreciate it. We'll get together.
If you look at the contingency reserve on 80999990, there's 30,000 in there for new contingency reserve. You know, the pumps that were put in, the European pumps. When you go back and you actually look at this plant, and they didn't put enough money to it, basically, and they did basically said make it fit, is what they did. So the engineers basically did what they were told to do, but they had European pumps, and those pumps just failed, and it cost the district close to $20,000 to replace those pumps, and then you had the electrical, because they were wired differently, so they had to go back in and fix that. When you look at the action plan that we put together with Department of Water, we identified with Rivercrest and the engineers 24 items that had to be replaced. 23 of the 24 are completed. And the last item is basically a auto dialer, basically that would notify the operator if something went wrong in the plant, which the engineers have identified some of those that the district can look at. July is our deadline. So as far as what these guys have been doing over the past several months, I know Jeff and I in February of last year went to Department of Water, and we were told that the plant's working. Well, when you go back and you look, the plant wasn't even designed to work. We have really come a long ways, and individuals like Lindell and Randy to step up and take a part of this. We've done everything mechanically that we can do. That side of the plant is secure. It's the influent, the stuff that's coming in, just like what they were talking about. Now, you know, it's been discussed that the plant is built to process. They're not built to go out and enforce the business end of it. And there's a responsibility on the businesses that are in that district to understand what they're doing to that plant. And if it's not processing, the conference call that we had with Department of Water, they just see, sitting behind a desk, they see the numbers on the back end. And then they make decisions based off of that. They don't really see what this fiscal court has done to support the district and what the district has done to get that plant where it needs to be. The influent, they go out and they identify which businesses are putting the pollutants into the system, and they correct that. That's really the major issue that's at hand. The 30,000 that we put in here, and this is from last Wednesday's conference call, and the pumps failing, is that there's still mechanical parts of the plant, which is your lift stations. There's another lift station that I believe has 2 pumps, or is required to have 2 pumps. It's got 1 pump. If it fails, then a portion of that district is going to fail, which is then going to, in turn, put the plant in a bad situation. And if the Department of Water comes in, it seems like they come in to inspect at the perfect time when there's a blowout. I think North Marshall Water, they marked their lines wrong, and the contract that was out there doing the MERCO was out there. They found it or someone found it, but basically that blowout of that line hit the district and killed all the bugs. So that they have,
Actually, if I can interrupt, that was 2 days, I believe, after I came to fiscal court and told you how pretty the effluent was coming out of our system, and it was really perfect. We blew out 2 days later. And
2 days later.
But they hit a 10-inch, they hit North Marshall's 10-inch water main with, 8-inch water main with 110 pound of water pressure on it, and it all went into the sewer system, down to the sewer plant. Mud, grit, gravel, chlorinated water.
And Department of Water shows up to inspect at the same time. So you can see, you know, you can see where they saw the numbers. The numbers were comparable to last year at the beginning of the year. So their assumption is we're not doing anything up here, which in fact we have been. And the effluent, we get that in fixed, then the plant's really gonna be in the best position it's ever been in for that district. But that's where the 30,000 for the new contingency is, basically to assist them if they can't take another $20,000 blow like they did a couple of weeks ago. They don't have the revenue stream right now.
We can't continue to be cleaning tanks at $5,000 a pop every week. It's not gonna happen. One thing that I would like to add, I think, on the drip that Linwood talked about, a big part of the restaurants we have up there are franchise restaurants. And I know, I'm sure, that they have their own manuals, they have their own specs they have to meet when they build these restaurants, because I work for some of them. I mean, they told me what size finish nail to use on a cabinet. They know what they're doing, especially the franchise. The ones that I hate worse are the mom and pop or the locally owned that's done what they thought they had to do the best they can. I know our franchise restaurants have specs showing what you can and can't do because they've done it in too many places. And I feel like some of them, maybe not the managers, but the franchise owners there, I think they know what's going on. And I don't think it'll be a surprise when they're mandated to fix this. So I do hate it in it. If it's a mom and pop place, if there's something we can do work with them, it'd be great. But that's kind of the way I feel, the response we're gonna start getting on these. You're probably gonna get some.
What do you need from us to help, or is it the health department? You said Linda feels uncomfortable. He said he feels uncomfortable going out there without the health department or backup when you're telling them to do it the way you're supposed to be doing it, which is a shame that they're not doing that anyway right now. But I understand that's human nature, and if you can get by with it, most of us kind of fudge a little bit, and that's, you know, that's human nature. But what do you need when you go to these other entities besides McDonald's?
Well, seemed like Friday, that's actually the only one that I've been involved with. When Michael met me out at McDonald's, we went in, I seen what kind of chemicals they was using. And we need to remember that everything inside these restaurants is disinfectants, antibacterial. Everything is to killing bacteria. And when it winds up down, when you've got so much of it and it's winding up down at the sewer plant, it's killing the bacteria that's needed for this process. And, but I mean, I thought it worked real well Friday morning. I'll work with the health department. We'll get together and just whenever both of us can get together and we'll go in and just do a walk around and see what they've got that might be contributing to.
How long do you think it'll take you to get through that process with all the identified restaurants, 22 or whatever you said? I mean, obviously, that's a big problem. I would think when you made that inspection and so forth and fix that problem, that's going to help immensely.
I can't give you a timeline on that. Every morning when I pull up, it's something new.
Oh, I understand that.
It's something new, so I've got to prioritize everything and just do, you know, the best I can is.
But I think you're heading in the right direction by going through that process like you did at McDonald's. I think that's it's gonna help immensely when, and everybody needs a little bit of skin in the game, and they've got to do their part, unless they want those rates to go up to $15 a thousand or something, you know, that's the other way if they don't want to cooperate, but I'm certain that most of them, when they know the situation, will cooperate.
And again, money's not gonna fix it. At this point in time, there's not enough money in the state of Kentucky to fix the problem we've got. We've got to have more residential.
Right.
Money's not gonna fix it. I mean, and, you know, and that's one thing I wanna let you know, it's time to quit throwing.
It'll Band-Aid it, but it won't fix it.
We've,
yeah.
we've got to expand, and that's, I just wanted to, basically wanna let you know where we're at, what we're doing to solve our problem, and, ask that we continue to have your support, and, the ordinances are supported to their fullest and enforced, and, that's, we just wanna let you know, because as we go business to business, you're gonna start getting phone calls, I promise, because we're fixing to be bad guys for a little while. But that goes with the territory. We don't mind doing it because it's for better good. We know what's gonna happen at the end, so.
This is a problem, guys, all over the country. This is, I mean, Draftville it is a unique situation because of the flow, the amount of water that's being used by these restaurants. I've got the water billing, for these restaurants, and you just can't imagine the amounts of water that's going through. And every bit of water that goes through those restaurants is going through the grease trap, right into the sewer system. And it's a problem all over the country. We've just probably been a little lax on enforcing the fog ordinance, but I think that we're, like you said, we're heading in the right direction.
I think the fog ordinance may address that use of degreasers, or,
It does. It's actually prohibited.
okay, I thought.
The word, it says prohibited. I've done a little research this weekend, and I understand now why that the drip systems are prohibited. It does bad to the sewer system.
And with the mechanical piece done, now they can focus more on the actual enforcement side of it. And I know that there were some businesses that were identified, just like McDonald's, and I think the new middle school has got an issue. So, I mean, there's businesses that they have identified, but it's gonna take everybody understanding what the overall plan is and what their part is. But the support, I know we've got, we met last year with the committee for the ordinance, and I know that we had a lot of support in that and having it drafted. And eventually we'll present that to the fiscal court at some point in time, but that thing is gonna be important. I think we need to educate on the front end, those in the district, both District 1 and District 2, but, because if not, I mean, we got our from the Department of Water Wednesday, when we had our conference call. There's not gonna be another second time. They're gonna escalate their enforcement for us to get in compliance with our effluent, so. But that's why the 30,000 was put in there. They may not use it, but it's there, because if they get another hit, like they did with the European pumps, their revenue right now is just not where they need to be. Do y'all have any other questions? Gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
One other thing, we talked about, I was around when we talked about the increase in the rate sometime back, and I think that everyone was ready to go forward on that, but the district board and the fiscal court felt like that we need to have our house in order before we start increasing the rate. So, I mean, obviously at that time, we didn't know what all problems we had. And, when you start raising rates, you gotta answer those questions. And at this point, those would be hard to address.
I want to let you know I've quit drilling holes in gas lines, if you remember.
Oh, that was, I bailed you out, didn't I?
You did,
I
big
did.
time, big time. Boy, I was in trouble.
Well, guys, appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Sorry we took so
guys.
long. Need anything,
Appreciate
give us
it.
a call.
Thank you for what you
Or
do.
if you need anything, call Lyndall.
Is that a guideline or a rule? Would you never do it again?
I haven't done it since.
Oh.
That was bad, that was really bad.
I think those are the changes that we went over. Do y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I was taking some notes as we were going over the changes. The county attorney's investigator, $66,800, is that with, it looks like the $40,000 base pay, and that's the total package? That employee, what does that, you know, we were bragging about some of the decreases and coming off the $470,000 that we subsidized the county attorney's office, or this body does, and that was down from last year from some of these savings, and as the sheet indicates to the far right there, that some 49,000, 59,000, what came out of there, Emily? What was the difference that we had from what we subsidized them last year then?
You want this year's amounts?
What we subsidized. I know some of these from last year when Jeff moved some monies around and was 59,000 or 62,000, which was off of that $470,000 that we subsidized, which was.
His entire budget was $460,100 for this fiscal year.
For this one that we're in now,
Yes,
460 that we subsidized.
his budget's $460,000.
Well, it's budget from us,
Yes.
not general budget.
Well, it's his general fund budget from us is
Right, from what we
$460,100.
subsidized, 460, okay, and we have, in this budget that were proposed, there was like 59,000 out or something because of some of these changes over here to the,
Right, I took the.
This draft,
I took the entire child support staff out of any of being subsidized in any way.
Okay.
Because they are on a contract. I have downsized one person.
Right, yeah.
And that's where that came from. Yes.
and which was I glad to see, and that's some of the things we talked about a couple of years ago is reducing that number there, and that this kind of shoots it right back up to the total that we had and wipes out the reduction. The other concern I have with the investigator and occupational tax, we tried to do that in Calvert City with, obviously we've got if the county would have a problem or thought they had a problem collecting all the entities that were in there, then we've got the same problem in the city government as the county had, and we addressed that one time and tried to do that, and we were not successful when we tried to go in there, but simply because, as Bob can tell you, even if they have a fire down there, it's invitation only. Fire departments can't go in and help our local fire departments. We'll go in, but they won't. You go in there by invitation only, and they're whether you're trying to go along the lines that we heard this morning from Sanitation District and the wastewater treatment plan, the study that's been going down there to replace the one at Air Products, that all the entities down there use. They're very secretive about their, what goes on in those plants, and rightfully so. And
Well, I think that it can be done. I think there's other ways of approaching it. I mean, I get comments from contractors and other people that are paying that, you're losing a lot of money right here because of,
Right.
and I think we can focus on those leads and, I don't know that I think it would prove to be a benefit as far as money's concerned, but from the standpoint that we're enforcing in the tax across the board, or attempting to, I think would go a long way, not only, with those people who are paying it at this point. I think you would have less people trying to avoid it.
I mean,
if they know there's some active enforcement.
what kind of person is this? It's a county attorney investigator.
Well, it's outlined in the statute that the county attorney can have a detective or investigator. And in certain size jurisdictions, those investigators even have the power of arrest. Now, that wouldn't be here. What I'm looking for probably is a retired officer that would be there to address issues that we need in the office, follow up different county issues. Like, for instance, help if we need to gather information on roads or assistance with the sanitation districts, we can send that person out. And at this point, I think the majority of the work would be in the beginning would be in trying to enforce this occupational tax. Because I've got a basic idea, basic plan of what I want to do, but it's going to have to match what that person, how that person approaches it. It's going to depend on who it is and how we, fashion it so it would work best.
I've just, like I say, I've been through that in Calvert City several years ago, and whether there was not as much, but heard the same thing, and most of the griping and moaning and groaning was people that were paying the tax and their competition was not, but when we got into it, it wasn't as, not everybody was doing that. That was, more the exception to the rule than Killer Wasp here.
And I think that's great. If we find out that we don't have a lot that are not in compliance, I think that says a lot to the people that are in compliance. However, we don't have that comfort to give, we can't give them that comfort right now. I think this person could also help us in assisting to avoid some of the continued audit comments that we get. Assist in picking up decentralized receipts, assist in doing random spot checks of assets, where those assets are, make sure that they're still where they were supposed to be and that they're in good working condition. I think there's a lot of holes that a position like this could fill.
I can do that countywide, because if the person's under me, when I send him out to go to the treasurer's office to count the ad machines or whatever, then that's going to be a plus with the auditors, because that person is not a general county employee and wouldn't be answering to any of the other officials.
I don't think I know enough about it to understand at this late a date to put that in there. I'm not necessarily in favor of that at this time.
And I think law enforcement would also be in favor, due to the things that we can do in our office that we wouldn't have to ask them to follow up on, getting statements, those sort of things on cases. Serve subpoenas, that sort of thing.
It's just an unknown if that occupational tax, if it's gonna bring in enough revenue to pay this salary though.
Yes, it is unknown, but
Right.
it would allow us next year to
I would
know
know
at that
in a
point.
year, or have an idea in a year about being what we do find.
Do we, I guess the question
We
is,
don't know, it could be hundreds
do we
of
know
thousands, but we
what
don't
we're
know
not
that.
capturing?
Know what?
Do we know what we're not capturing with the occupational tax?
I mean, the
We don't have
estimates-
anything in place right now.
Calvert City, county, school board, all estimate large numbers that we're not capturing. But as far as identifying exactly who those are, I mean, those are just estimates, okay? Based on what I've been able to find out. But this would at least help identify if some of that's accurate and if we can capture it.
Does this have to be a full-time position?
No, does not have to be a full. I mean,
I
I
don't-
would prefer it, but, yeah,
I don't see us being able to accomplish all those things with it being part-time.
Isn't there entities out there that will come in and work on a percentage basis and eliminate that possibility that, like I say, when Calvert City dealt with it a number of years ago, there wasn't, at that period of time that it was tried, and the effort was put forth, it just wasn't, as prevalent as some people thought, because like I say, the only time you hear somebody complaining is the contractor that's paying it and somebody is working right beside them that's not in the same entity or same complex, and
Or
of course,
the-
those people bark pretty loud.
the
when
contractor
happens.
that had the next highest bid,
Right,
yeah, that's what I
Right.
agree with you there.
Right.
But I do feel like with it, someone on the, local and, approaching it the way I want to approach it I think it would be effective.
The fact that we don't have anything in place right now, we don't know how much occupational tax we're losing. This opportunity gives us an opportunity to at least put something in place to see if there is monies out there that contractors or any business that is not paying occupational tax.
Do you want it to be a full-time position, Jeff?
Do I want it to be?
Yeah.
I would prefer it.
Well, I don't know if this is an option, but because we've got the retirement bill in place, hire them through me, assign him to you, and there's no benefits to be done. Just straight salary.
I
Which in
think we
this
were
case
looking
is
at this for 1 year
$26,000.
just to see, because it may be something that, I don't know how that would affect, but I think
would.
if we put in place for 1 year, if in fact there isn't anything to capture, then
Yeah, and I assume
Exactly.
anything you all set's for a year anyway.
Exactly,
budget.
that's what I thought,
Yeah.
You'd at least you'd get an idea, see that it's worthwhile. You can keep it. If you don't, then you could eliminate the position.
so what I'm hearing is that if we invest $66,000, and we'll be able to track that so that we will be able to see at
Well,
this time next year, a number that whether that was,
I will be able to show you what that person has done in the period of time that they work. I mean, I don't even have the person yet.
For you, and then also Emily should be able to see anything extra that's been brought in.
Yeah, well, I mean, if those that we identify and then they start paying, that'll
Right,
be
that's what I
pretty
mean.
easy to determine.
you can do a lot of things with numbers, obviously, from one year to another, they're gonna vary anyway along the occupational tax line, but is there gonna be a way so that we can track that? Is that this idea far enough along that we're gonna be able to say, yes, we've collected,
Well, I think-
$500,000 more than,
Well, but if I can relate it to the cases that we do have that person work.
So
You know, if we
he's gonna find
identify
out people that
somebody-
are not paying presently and say, hey, you know, you've been doing this for 3 months at Calvert City at Westlake, and,
Absolutely, we can do
is
that.
Yeah,
it gonna
I mean,
be?
yeah, I'll be-
So we'll have
I mean,
hard,
yes.
fast
I
numbers.
think,
Yes,
yeah,
I-
I'm not gonna say, will you hire this person, and this time next year, we said, well, the occupational tax was up $250,000, you ought to give me a big thank you. That's not what I'm talking about.
Well, no,
Right.
because that may not come from that investigation.
Exactly.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Yes.
But my question is there a way to track, can you come this time next year, if we choose to hire this person, can you come in here and will you come in here and report back to this body that he is responsible and these are, and a little piece of paper that says, well, they got this contractor at this place and this contractor at this place, and this is a result of having this guy in place to justify doing it
I
another
don't feel
year.
it would be incumbent upon this person and me to produce something like that.
Okay. Yeah. That would make me feel a whole lot better, I'm certainly not,
No, absolutely. That would be very important to my office to track those independently of occupational tax as a whole.
that this officer has accounted for.
Yeah, and two, you know, not only we have the statute that this position's created under, Emily's created quite a list of duties that she wants this person to answer for as well. So, I'm gonna
Well,
have
I can
plenty.
say I'm not sure of those duties. That's what I say, this is the first we're hearing about this,
Yeah.
first I'm hearing about it anyway at budget time. So that's, we're gonna have a second reading tomorrow, and the timing's not real good
I understand.
either.
I agree. That's, I've thought, I thought of this, well, in hearing the talk about different occupational tax problems and some complaints that came in recently, and that's the reason I just mentioned it in passing a couple weeks ago and kind of tried to firm it up for you all to consider. I appreciate you considering it, if you can do it, all or part, and I'm willing to work with the sheriff if as necessary on it.
How'd we come up with the 40,000 figure? Is that,
Just, I know in hiring retired officers in the past, that's been the
Base.
ballpark number. If I can hire for less, I will hire for less.
Well, is that a way that the sheriff mentioned, is that a way to hire for less if we're gonna have an experimental program?
Well, are you talking about one of your people?
What I'm saying is, I don't know if that's something you'd like to explore, since we have the ability for that retirement bill, which means I can hire anybody with 20 years law enforcement experience retired in salary, and I think FICA's the only thing that comes out of it. Other than
Yeah.
that, no benefit package whatsoever.
that would help a lot, no fringe.
And more or less hire him under me and just assign him to you, and he's yours.
We get that same officer for 2/3 cost then.
That'd be fine.
basically.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Again,
that satisfies your statute, that's something you may have.
I think it'll be fine.
but I think too with this, what was discussed is that because it's an unknown, we were gonna do it for 1 year. If you're gonna hire somebody, I mean, that, if it does work out or if it pans out that there isn't, a need, then
They'd have to understand
Yeah,
that.
that person we
up
hired would have
front.
to understand that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Exactly, and it's not gonna be, if it were a person they were just starting and you say, well, I'm gonna work you a year, this person's is gonna be retired. And I think that having a year window there to review is just one of those things that happens. I mean, I don't think it's a problem.
Who's to say in that year's time, we do what I'm talking about, pick it up the next year.
Might help light the fire.
I think at that point, then you start, because you start discussion, because one of the things too is the amount of work that is going on down at the plants. I mean, when you look at the occupational tax, that's where you got a lot of contractors coming in. If the,
Inspection as well.
yeah, I mean, so if this year was a good year for them, but there are gonna be years where it's not gonna be good.
That's absolutely true. They have big turnarounds and maintenance issues and building and
And, you know, and it's,
in
I've
one year
had
they don't,
issues
they don't.
outside of Calvert as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's,
Yes.
you know, these little projects.
Yes,
that fly in
absolutely.
and-
There's projects all over the county, that, you could see benefits from.
But that is
They're
your
just
big,
generally
that's your
not
big dollar
involved.
ticket item there, that's.
Well,
that's the
I
best.
think we could make that work.
When you tell them it's a trial job for this first year, that'll give them an incentive to maybe.
Make it work.
Well,
Yeah, because I mean, if the work's not there, then
Exactly.
it's not there.
And if
we
the
can't.
documentation after a year period's not there, then we're foolish to throw another $40,000 away.
No, that's right. I mean, if we get 6 months into it and we find out that there's nothing there,
Now,
then
it'll take.
It's an
it'll
at-will
take a- it'll take a
employee.
while.
Yeah,
I think it'll
absolutely.
Probably take a
Yeah.
year.
Just eliminate the position.
That's absolutely correct.
It'll probably take a year to figure out. You're not gonna get in there running, you know, you gotta crawl your
but I
way in
think
and feel your way.
initially, you know, you were saying that there was investigative needs out of your office. I know Emily's got some things identified, and we don't have anything in place for occupational tax, but,
I think it could assist in delinquencies. There's a lot of things that I think that we could benefit from.
the only concern I have is that this position is not something that if we were to put in place, and how it's set up is that employee is then a full-time employee that we just keep
Right.
with no work.
As long as that's understood, that's my
Yes.
concern. I agree. And especially if we can go through this and save a third of the salary.
Yes, that
and
would
pay-
make a big
that-
difference.
That would be even better if we're gonna experiment a little bit, then.
Well, see, I don't, as far as the salary, you're talking about a retired police officer. I mean, they get insurance.
Well, but it would be, unless we went through the sheriff, it would be similar to you and Scott, where because you don't fit the description that they will allow you to come back as. So we wind up having to pay retirement and help reimburse the retirement for your health insurance
Well,
at no benefit to
I don't
the
think we
employer.
hire, and we didn't discuss that. I don't know about hiring through I understand you try to save some monies, but I don't think that's what our intent is. Our intent is there's a need for investigations out of your department, and you've got some areas that need to be looked at as far as our occupational tax. We make sure that we keep that separate and clean.
Yes.
Because then when you start hiring for your department and you put them over into his department, I mean, that's not what the intent is for. Because then, when, say, there's no work 6 months into it, you know, the individuals, we don't have any work for that individual, or a year later, there's no work for that individual, then it's gonna look like you're pulling somebody from him and his agency, when in fact, that's not the case. So I don't think that's a good idea, to drag another department into it when it's initially, when it was your department that had the need. And we all understand that there is an unknown with the occupational tax. We don't know how much money's out there that's for the positive or for the negative. But what we do know is that we can at least put something in place, because there's a need in your office, and there's obviously the occupational, we don't have anything in place. And if it's fruitless the first 6 months, then we pull the plug on it. If it produces, then we can start negotiating, you know, if it's gonna be something long-term or not. Because it still has the same powers as far as that issue. I don't think we just do that for saving, because of the retirement. I think you're combining agencies that we're kind of losing focus on what our intent is.
Okay.
That's just my opinion on it.
I was just looking at it from a savings standpoint,
A what?
savings standpoint, going through the sheriff's department.
Well, I mean, there's gonna be a cost, if you've got an investigator. I mean, the need came to me as far as out of your office. And we don't have an occupation, we don't have anything in place to identify what businesses are in the county, working and eluding, the occupational tax. So we put something in place, if it doesn't work, if there's nothing there, then, I mean, we get rid of it.
Would like, if you earmark the money for it, and when I can identify the person and the specific details, I can come back before I hire that person and say, here's what I want to do. If we want to do it through the sheriff or not, or we can determine that at that time, and you put your price tag on it.
Are we hiring this person under the statute? Because it specifically states your office.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, I mean, I know, that's part of the details.
And
I'll come
that's-
back. I will make sure we're
We're
not.
chasing I'm afraid we may be chasing a rabbit down a hole as far as trying to save money. But if we're hiring, I read the statute, and if what the intent is for this employee to fall under that statute, then it's the county attorney who we hire it for. When we start eluding that and we try to save $1, we may get ourselves in a situation.
And I'll look, see if there's any opinions on that, out there, on different offices, but, you know, I'll come back and say, here's what this person can do, and here's what it's gonna cost, you know, he's gonna, work for me and have these duties that I will assign him under the request that Emily's made, just so that you all will know when the first day that person starts, exactly what's gonna be expected of it. We won't, and then I'll pursue, look into this, make sure we're not, and, we'll plan on doing it straight up on, with my hiring. If there's an exception there that allows me to take advantage of that benefit with the sheriff, then we might explore that at a later date.
Well, this information you're talking about, I just assume we're gonna read the budget tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is that not correct? That's not, that's my problem with this right here. This is the first I've heard of what you mentioned, that part of it, but these other, duties that this person can perform, I just really haven't. This
Well,
is
and-
But
morning.
if we leave it to where the court's going to make a decision on whether that person is ultimately hired, then whether it's in the budget or not, that really,
Yeah.
that's not gonna hinge on whether we hire them or not. It's gonna be whether the court decides there's value in hiring them.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and I understand the value of it, and I get that. I understand as far as law enforcement, they can hire retired law enforcement, and understand that bill. But we've got a statute that we were looking at, and I'm not big, and I know, trying to go through one agency to save $1, if the sheriff's office, in my opinion, hires somebody, it's for his department.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I agree.
I mean, we don't, the statute doesn't say that the county attorney hires and then, sends them to be supervised or fall underneath somebody else. I don't think that's the way we should be doing business. I mean, if it's saving $1, I mean, there's gonna be a cost. There is a cost to this if we hire somebody for the county attorney. And that, I mean, really, that number right there is what you're looking at. And then there's no confusion as far as who that individual works for or what they're.
But if there's concern about this being budgeted tomorrow, That doesn't mean we're gonna necessarily hire that person unless the court agrees. At the end of the day, when he identifies that person, the court will ultimately have the decision to hire him or not hire him. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Yeah, well, the money's budgeted for the county attorney. It's going into his budget. That's what's being presented today. The money's not being presented for his.
Understood, but he's still gonna bring that back. We make that contingency that he's gonna have to bring that person back to us. He's not gonna just hire that person on his own.
Right,
The court's going to make
Right.
that final decision.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, then, I mean, that's the main,
I didn't
that was the
understand.
main concern that we were, you know, if we
Yes.
budgeted this, he would be hired no matter what, but that's not true.
No. It would be budgeted for his office,
Yeah.
but the fiscal court would have the final.
Understood, okay.
Fine.
But I mean, we put this on here so that you would see, I mean, that's it. That's the dollar amount right
Yeah,
there.
understood.
And he did save, you know, throughout the last year, we asked him to reduce his budget, and he did. And the way I saw it was that he reduced it to a point where he actually created an opportunity to where we can benefit from it. If there are monies that we can get from occupational tax for those contractors or anybody that's doing work in the county that we're not capturing, we won't know until we try it.
Yeah, just as long as, like I say, what Bob said, and if he comes back to us, I have no problem putting it in there if he has, so we can make that decision this time, and as far as the sheriff's concerned and saving those other dollars, as long as we just got a tracking mechanism so that we can justify this position 6 months down the road and see if it's working or not.
You keep saying the sheriff's department.
No, I'm not talking about what Bob said. I understand what you're saying and don't have any problem with that either, that Bob says if we put it in the budget, Jeff's gonna come back before he hires that person, and we're gonna discuss all that and all the information that he just gave us that he was gonna check on before we pull the trigger, and even though it's in the budget, he doesn't have the authority. The way I understood Bob's suggestion, he doesn't have the authority to spend that money till he comes back to us. Is that?
Well, he can, just, the monies that are put in there, he's an elected official. I mean, just like the sheriff,
But
he
I thought-
hires
isn't that
his.
what you,
That's what I understood.
that's what I
Well-
understood too, and Jeff said he would do that. That's what I understood. That's what I'm trying to, is that not correct, Jeff?
That was, I'd be willing to, I would
thought that's
be,
what- is that
I'm
what
telling
you
you,
meant,
I'd
Bob?
be willing to
That's what I
do
said.
it.
That's what I thought I heard.
I agree, Judge.
And I understand. We're getting off, what we had discussed. And what I don't want to see is the sheriff's department drug into this to try to save.
No,
No. That's not what we're saying.
Okay, I just want to be clear on
We're
it.
just saying that Jeff's gonna bring that person back to us before he's hired. And we'll make the final decision on
Right.
whether he's hired or not.
Okay. Any other questions?
What about the Hardin Senior time clock issue? We've got a clock over there. I mean, it's in the budget to that position and so forth with the unsupervised. I understand, and you all heard it, the audit exit, Johnny and I, but we had the audit exit. You know, we got a,
That's actually, she will no longer be a county employee. She'll be under those contributions will go into the Hardin Senior Citizens, Hardin South Marshall Senior Citizens, and the board will supervise her.
Right now, the two employees that the auditors had identified had no supervision. She's the last one.
okay, so we're not gonna require her to punch a clock?
She won't be a county employee.
Oh, okay, well, Bob, when we left here last time, we were talking about, we had moved the clock over there and asked her, and Bob has said he was gonna try to do that.
If she remained a county employee, that's what I was gonna do, absolutely.
I didn't understand that. I hadn't been let in on that part of it, that she wasn't gonna be accounted. That's the first time I've heard that, so.
No, that's how the budget was presented.
When we left here last time and adjourned, Johnny said, no punch, no lunch, and, we were gonna try to solve that problem by that was when we walked out of here at the very end last time. And that, I mean,
But
that's,
it hadn't changed. I mean, we didn't change anything.
so,
It's in the contribution portion.
Yeah, it's in the contribution, so just like we'll
Okay.
pay everybody else that was awarded that contribution,
okay,
we'll
as
write
long as I
Hardin
just-
South Marshall
okay,
Senior
as
Citizen.
long
The
as
board,
auditor-
the board will
Okay, well,
supervise.
that's,
Yeah.
when we left here, the no punch, no lunch, and you were gonna talk to her and try to get her to punch the clock. something must have
It was kind of up in
transpired
the air, I guess, when we
before
left,
then.
but.
So,
it's
I mean,
been
that's
resolved.
fine as long as we're,
Yep.
because the auditor.
No, the
is-
auditors won't, they won't be involved.
They wouldn't, they didn't approve the way it's being done, and,
Anything else?
That's it.
I'm going to work.